Look at these children. We are taught early on that drinking a daily glass of milk is essential for healthy growth and strong bones. It is treated as a foundational rule of modern nutrition, repeated in classrooms and advertising campaigns alike. But this heat map shows a different reality. Across the globe, roughly 70% of the adult population is physically incapable of digesting lactose. In regions like East Asia, West Africa, and among indigenous peoples of the Americas, that figure reaches 95%. The exception to this biological rule is the minority of humans who possess a genetic mutation that keeps lactase production permanently switched on throughout adulthood. The ability to drink a glass of fresh milk without getting violently ill is not a universal human trait. It is a biological accident that managed to spread across continents and eventually shape the modern global diet. The origins of this dietary anomaly trace back 10,000 years to Anatolia. Here, early human communities managed to domesticate the wild aurochs, a highly aggressive animal weighing up to a ton. These early herders kept cattle for meat and labor. They could not drink the fresh milk. It was physically toxic to them, causing severe cramping and illness. Yet they found a workaround through intuitive chemistry. By allowing the milk to ferment, they introduced bacteria that broke down most of the lactose. Early staples like yogurt and kefir were invented specifically because people needed a way to extract calories from dairy without getting sick. Then, roughly 7,000 years ago, somewhere in northern Europe, a random genetic mutation appeared in a single individual. This specific biological glitch prevented their body from shutting off lactase production. In many places, this would have been a meaningless mutation, but these cattle herding communities lived in a harsh environment where grain harvests regularly failed. During severe famines, the ability to consume raw milk directly from a cow provided clean fluids, protein, and extra calories. Carriers of the mutation survived starvation and passed the gene to their children. This map illustrates the result of that survival advantage. If you overlay the historical spread of that specific genetic mutation directly on top of the world's largest modern dairy-producing regions, they are a near-perfect match. While that genetic trait was isolating itself in Europe, other civilizations were trying to solve a severe logistical limitation. In a world without refrigeration, fresh milk spoiled within hours, making it impossible to store or transport over long distances. The Mongols solved this by processing mare's milk into fermented kumis, neutralizing the lactose for a largely intolerant population to yield a calorie-dense alcoholic ration. This allowed Mongol cavalrymen to carry their food source on the hoof, sustaining centuries of rapid military expansion without relying on vulnerable supply lines. In medieval Europe, monks utilized mold and highly controlled cave environments to turn perishable liquid into solid, long-lasting cheese wheels. This preserved the milk's nutritional value and caloric density for months, or even years, acting as a safeguard against crop failures. In India, a population with high rates of lactose intolerance developed their own cultural solution. By boiling, fermenting, and churning sacred cow's milk into processed products like ghee and lassi, they bypassed biological constraints, weaving dairy deeply into religious rituals. Through fermentation, mold aging, and churning, different societies used environmental and cultural pressures to invent diverse processing methods. They turned a highly localized, rapidly spoiling liquid into foundational dietary staples. Those traditional preservation methods worked for centuries, until the rapid urbanization of the 19th century broke the supply chain. Cities grew at a staggering pace, outstripping the capacity of rural farms and creating massive urban dairy shortages. In places like New York, businessmen responded by attaching dairy farms directly to urban distilleries. These swill dairies fed cows the hot, cheap waste left over from grain distillation. The diet made the animals violently ill, resulting in a thin, sour, bluish-tinted milk. Producers disguised the toxic liquid by diluting it with water and whitening it with chalk and molasses. Sold as fresh country milk, it triggered horrifying spikes in infant mortality, killing thousands of children from gastrointestinal diseases during the hot summer months. The solution came from science rather than politics. In the 1860s, Louis Pasteur demonstrated that microscopic pathogens cause disease, and that heating liquids to a specific temperature could destroy those microscopic organisms without ruining the fluid itself. European and American producers soon adopted pasteurization, Almost instantly, the mortality rates from gastrointestinal diseases among urban children began a steep, permanent decline. This technological intervention turned milk from a lethal hazard into a stable commodity capable of supporting global industrialization. With safety secured, 20th century governments began treating milk as a state-guaranteed minimum. In the Soviet Union, officials mandated cheap access to dairy, but the rigid planned economy struggled with the logistics of a perishable liquid, leading to chronic distribution problems and infamous early morning milk queues. Positioning milk as an entitlement made it politically volatile. When UK Education Secretary Margaret Thatcher abolished free school milk rations in 1971 to cut budgets, the public backlash was so severe that she was branded Thatcher the Milk Snatcher for the rest of her career. Take a close look at these official food pyramids from 1992 and 2005. The United States dairy lobby successfully secured a prominent, mandated space for milk in government dietary guidelines. It was framed as an essential daily requirement for healthy bones, despite data from nations like Japan and China showing very low dairy consumption without higher rates of osteoporosis. To defend this placement, the dairy industry poured hundreds of millions of dollars into aggressive advertising, paying prominent celebrities to wear milk mustaches and reinforce these unproven nutritional claims to the public. The 20th century status of milk as a mandatory dietary staple relies on state-guaranteed minimums and aggressive corporate lobbying, rather than consensus on bone health. That monopoly finally broke in the 2000s. Advances in enzymatic food technology allowed companies to process plants like oats, rice, and almonds into affordable liquids that matched the taste and texture of cow's milk on a mass-market scale. As cow's milk consumption steadily drops across developed nations, the traditional dairy industry has responded aggressively. They have launched lawsuits and lobbying campaigns attempting to legally restrict plant-based competitors from using the word milk entirely. The modern oat milk latte exists at the end of a vast historical timeline. It connects massive political lobbying efforts and urban safety crises back to the cellars of medieval monasteries and the rapid military expansion of the Mongol Empire. For millennia, a single random genetic accident dictated the agricultural and economic fate of billions. But modern technology has finally bypassed biology, giving the 70% for whom that mutation was never normal the freedom to choose something else.